Hello, my little ghouls and goblins. Now, we love stuff around here that sends a chill down your spine. And nothing will freeze you in your tracks more than these terrifying, icy monsters from around the world. Get a nice cozy cup of hot chocolate as I walk you through top 5 ice creatures that are real. Let me know down below in the comments which of these frigid little freaks stood out the most for you. Let's dive on in. Number 5, Yuki-Onna. Coming in first on our list is Yuki-Onna, a deadly monster. Her name translates to Snow Woman, which is pretty fitting for a list about ice creatures. She goes by a few names, however, depending on who's telling the story. Sometimes it's swapped out for Yuki-Onba, translating to Snow Grandma, or Yukinba, Snow Hag, depending on how nice you're feeling about her. She's a beautiful alabaster woman with pale, pale skin, and is the restless spirit of a woman who perished tragically in the snow and is unable to find any peace and wanders the wilds, luring men away to their doom, freezing, or going around causing blizzards and snowstorms to trap clueless travelers. Now, there are several local variants on the story of Yuki-Onna all across Japan, as it's an ancient myth dating all the way back to the 14th century. Most variants contain pretty similar elements. She's a tall, slender, gorgeous woman who's also completely ruthless. Some variations of her legend depict her as a wandering mother, carrying a child in her arms, and anyone who tries to endanger her child or take her child from her face her wrath. Most of these stories depict her as being cold in every sense of the word, feeling no remorse for her victims. Her reasons for hunting vary. Sometimes she does it to lure men away and seduces them with freezing kisses. Some say she does it just because. But you know what? I think I could fix her. She's known to spare people on occasion, so she's got some heart beating inside that cold exterior. I'm sure if we got to know each other, I could melt her heart just a little bit. Hey, like the scares? Want to hear more about more monsters every day? Well, then you're at the right place. Just subscribe to Top 5 Scary and we'll keep it up for you. Number 4, Barbegazi. I'm including these guys because while researching for this video, I found out about them for the first time and immediately became obsessed with these little goofs. They're not super scary, but this is the kind of thing that I think the world will be a lot better for if we all know about. The Barbegazi is a French variant of a gnome, a squat little humanoid with giant feet, covered in white hair and long pointed ears, and an even longer white beard frozen with clumps of ice and icicles, explaining their name. Barbegazi is a broken telephone translation of the French words barbe and glacé, translating to frozen beards. So they're frosty little gnomes, they're like little elves. They don't make any toys, but they do like to play, and they use their gigantic hobbit-like feet to ski down mountains. They surf avalanches. These guys rule. These guys are just adorable little adrenaline-chasing snow gnomes. Snomes? As a nice change of pace from the usual monsters and the rest of this list, the Barbegazi really just want to chill, pun extremely intended. They help shepherds find their flocks, they help lost travelers find their way home, and honestly they'd probably help you move if you asked. These adorable big feet live in tunnels deep beneath the mountains, in vast networks of interconnected caves and secluded villages where they hibernate for years when the climate doesn't suit them. They live up in the Alps on the border of Switzerland and France, which is maybe where their good nature comes from. That famed Swiss neutrality means they're not going around dooming anybody the way Yuki-Onna is. There's not too much folklore around these guys, and really everything I've just said to you is about everything I could find on them personally, but I absolutely loved the concept of the skiing snow gnomes, so here they are. I hope you like them even a quarter as much as I did. Number 3, Ijiraq. Okay, we've had enough pleasant, cute little myths, so let's get back to the scary ones. The Ijiraq, translating to shapeshifter, is a doomed creature born out of a cruel fate. Born out of a human being who wandered too far out into the cold and found themselves caught between the worlds of life and death, trapped to forever wander between the line. It's a shapeshifter that can take any form that it pleases, but it's never able to mask its signature trademark, its glowing, sinister red eyes. When it's in its most natural form, it does resemble a human, although a bit of a twisted one, as its eyes are contorted sideways, as well as its mouth, disfigured past the point of recognition of a regular mouth. It's said that you can only ever gaze upon an Ijiraq from out the corner of your eye, for if you look at them directly, it'll disappear from your vision, as if it was never really there. It's said that they target out travelers specifically, luring lost, wayward souls to try to convert the living into joining them in their land of the undead. And as well, they prey on lost children secluded from their families to drag them away and steal them. It's best to steer completely clear out of any territory Ijiraq are said to inhabit, as no matter how well versed you are with your environments and your tracking ability, once you've made yourself exposed to the presence of an Ijiraq, you're bound to become ensnared in its trap eventually and lose your way. That's why they build the Nookshuks to help the children find their way back home if they're able to convince an Ijiraq to let them go. Now, it's said if you do encounter one, and if you survive, you will barely be able to remember what happened, with all of it seeming like a fleeting, distant dream. Number 2, Yeti. Now you had to guess that if we were going to do a list of icy creatures, that the abominable snowman would be making a snow-stopping appearance. Snow-stopping? Like show-stopping? Yeah, you kind of get it, you know what I mean. Yetis are like the snow monster. Did you know Yeti actually means snowman in Nepalese? Now don't say you don't learn anything from any of these videos. The creature is a tall, bipedal, ape-like creature, like a winterized variant of Bigfoot, said to roam the Himalayas. Much like the elusive Sasquatch, there have been many numerous reported sightings over the years, although it could be possible that a lot of these are just people seeing bears and it's kind of snowy out and it's hard to tell what's going on. But there could also be an inconspicuous ape-like species lurking around in the mountains, just out of reach of human eyes. I'm willing to hear all options on this. It's one of the oldest myths to mountain-dwelling peoples, and there are countless local variations and spins on the creature and its fables. It's actually fascinating. I had no idea how many variants of Yetis there are across so many different cultures. It appears across multiple cultures, a recurring element in several mythologies. Yeti is hardly the only name it goes by. A couple other Tibetan names for this creature include Mish, which means man-bear, Migo, translating to wild man, and Bunmanshi, which is Nepali for jungle man. It goes without saying that abominable snowman is not the indigenous name for it, but rather a name dubbed to it by British officers in the 1920s who were fascinated by stories of the creature. It's a bit of a misnomer because most cultures actually view the Yeti as a bit more of a benevolent being than any of those names might suggest, with some cultures viewing them as descendants of gods or divine beings, or see them as an intelligent species that just wants to be left alone and respected, driven to near extinction from hunters. And I can respect that. Let these beautiful creatures just vibe out there. And finally, at our number 1 spot is my personal favorite northern winter cryptid, sometimes called the Wendigo, but most commonly known as the Wendigo. The Wendigo is a vengeful, malevolent spirit, originating from plains, Great Lakes, and First Nations people based around the east coast of Canada. Is that why I included the Wendigo up at number 1? Very possibly. Like pretty much all mythological creatures, there's no set truth or one story about the Wendigo, and countless local variations exist on it. Depictions of Wendigos range from a humanoid, emaciated, nasty-looking creature, a bit like me, although somewhere down the line, it became very popular to depict the Wendigo as a bipedal monster with a deer's skull in place of a head. In some Ojibwe and Cree lore, the Wendigo is described as being massive, towering over humans, although this trait seems to be unique to those stories. It's said that Wendigos maintain their faculties from when they were human, able to communicate, speak, to be able to better lure prey or taunt and threaten their targets. Common to all depictions of the Wendigo, though, is that it's a malevolent, vengeful spirit which takes over humans. It's sometimes thought to be the embodiment of human greed and gluttony, and invokes an insatiable lust for hunger, and oftentimes a devouring desire for human flesh. Some variants of the Wendigo myth say that a starving human who succumbs to their darkest desires and consumes human flesh will find themselves transforming into a Wendigo. Other times, it's said merely being around the presence of one will slowly cause you to turn. It's thought that Wendigo myths originate as a means to encourage cooperation among people. For if you're overcome by your own greed, or foolishly venture off by yourself, you'll descend and turn into one of these vicious creatures and only end up serving damage to your community. Now, for whatever reason, we are fascinated as a culture by Wendigos. We just love these guys. They pop up all the time. There's a Marvel character named Wendigo based off the myth, who I'm sure is getting a 10-episode Disney Plus series as I speak. Wendigos appear as the central antagonist of the video game Until Dawn, appearing as pale, emaciated creatures born out of flesh consumption and living in the mountains. And recently, the 2021 horror film Antler centered around a Wendigo as its main antagonist. We seem to always be hungry for more Wendigo content. Nothing ironic about that. That's all for this video, my little ghouls and goblins. Thanks so much. Creep on creeping on, and I'll see you in the next one.